Turn up the volume for this one. Tomorrow, the Senate will begin taking up that long-awaited package for Ukraine. But infighting among House Republicans may have only just begun. House Speaker Mike Johnson earned praise from moderates for pushing ahead on the multi-billion-dollar bill. But far-right members like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who you saw right there, are enraged over his decision to work with Democrats and is now vowing to oust him yet again if he does not resign. Back with us tonight to discuss, MSNBC political analyst Juanita Tolliver and Republican strategist Stuart Stevens. He is now with the Lincoln Project. His new book, The Conspiracy to End America, 5 Ways My Old Party is Driving Our Democracy to Autocracy, is out now. Stuart, I want to start with the Wall Street Journal Ed Board and the headline they wrote, quote, Mr. Johnson's behavior is called leadership, and the GOP would be more popular and better able to govern if more of its members showed such mettle themselves or had more respect for those who demonstrate it. I'm going to take a wild guess here. You're down with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 2 things are true. Mike Johnson deserves credit, a lot of credit, for really making a historic decision that it's the first time in a long time that you saw members of a European citizenship going forward and saying, God bless America, which happened after this vote. But the other hand, I think it's important not to overpraise him because there's sort of a dumbing down here of what it means to be a Speaker of the House. What he did, he didn't vote the way that Vladimir Putin wanted him to vote. And I think that's a pretty low bar for leadership. And we still have this reality that the majority of Republicans voted the way that Vladimir Putin wanted them to vote. And I think that just shows how the party has collapsed. Thank God this thing passed. It should have passed months ago. A lot of lives would have been saved. There'd be a lot of innocent women and children and soldiers that would be alive today. But it could have failed, and it didn't, and there's some credit to that.
Juanita, what do you think?
Yeah, I give Mike Johnson no credit. So I'm going to latch on to the part that Stuart mentioned about the fact that this should have passed 6 months ago. And I appreciate that President Volodymyr Zelensky mentioned to Kristen Welker on Meet the Press that this is aid that is meant to help protect and fight for freedom, protect and fight for democracy, which helps globally, not just Ukraine. And so I think that this is long overdue. I also think that it's exclusively motivated by Mark Johnson's intention to cover himself with protection from Democrats. I said weeks ago, Stephanie, that Democrats should not offer to save Republicans for themselves or save Mike Johnson from himself unless they get something in exchange. And I think that this foreign aid package, as well as the sequencing on how it was voted, is a first step in that process. And I think Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries fully understands how to operate with this minority and hold that over Mike Johnson's head.
Well, here's what I really want to know, Stuart. Mike Johnson telling far-right extremists no, does that mean it is the beginning of the end for him or the beginning of the end for them?
Well, I had kind of a going out of business sale for any optimism with the Republican Party. So I'd hate to be one to think that they might be able to rise to a higher level. I suspect that 2 months from now, Mike Johnson will be Speaker of the House. You have to realize, and look back, they were basically down to putting an ad in Craigslist to find a speaker. And to go through that again, I think would be so painful for this party and the members of the party who are trying to focus on their reelection now, that I don't think they'll do it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is somebody who, nobody likes, and people think that she's just this kind of odd, angry person. She's not someone that people are drawn to. So I think that he'll still be Speaker. I think he'll stay.
Juanita, I want to go back to the last thing you said, because some Democrats have signaled they're willing to save Johnson if this motion to vacate moves forward. But others are telling Axios that they're not going to let him off so easy. What do you think is going to happen here?
I think there could be an opportunity for Democrats to get additional long overdue legislation to formally get votes on the House floor. As we know, this motion to vacate is dangling. Of course, I agree with Stuart that Marjorie Taylor Greene is huffing and puffing with no real action, no timeline, no clear next steps or support based on the fractures that are visible within the Republican Party. But I do know that Hakeem Jeffries knows how to negotiate, even with the staging of how these votes rolled out over the weekend, with Democrats hanging back while Republicans looked chaotic, while 112 Republicans voted the way Putin wanted them to. And so I think that's something that Democrats are going to continue to leverage. They are not going to come to the immediate aid of Republicans and Mike Johnson, but what they will do is negotiate for other legislation. And then when the vote comes, they will show up before that clock runs out.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.